I think what's craziest about this review is all the history buffs, like history buffs, are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Everyone else is going to go along for the ride because they know what's going to happen. And that's why this movie's good to watch, because you don't know how it ends. Noryang, Deadly Seas, directed by Kim Han-hin, and is the third film in his sort of trilogy that he's had so far of historical films about naval and military battles about Korea, set in about the 1500s, going back a little ways. In here, we follow Yi Sho-shin as he is in the final naval battle of his entire career as he defends Korea against the incoming invasion by Japan and its overwhelming forces, which set him with incredible odds in his aging years and a battle for his entire nation. I've actually watched the first two films in here, and I've discovered that not many people are aware of these films. These films are, for the most part, pretty historically accurate, while they do fantasticize certain elements of it and make some of them a little exaggerated if you know the history. But I think for the majority of the easygoing audience, which isn't a history buff trying to dissect to pieces everything that's going on in here, it works because you, A, don't really know what's, wrong with it, and B, it's something that, like I said, you don't know how it's going to end. But for me, this is something I've been looking forward to. It's kind of like a conclusion. And I gotta say, I'm impressed. I really like this film. There are flaws with this one. I wouldn't say it's its best, but it certainly does hold its own as something that really mandates itself to give something worth telling. And this is a story that is deeply, deeply layered and a lot of things that could have just been washed over, and it adds a lot to the story that could have been just left out. This could have just been a retelling of events and focusing on just one character, but this movie does more than that, and I respect that. Mainly in how it characterizes the entire army that's involved with this guy. It doesn't just give him all the front and focus, which is some of the things I didn't like with the first two. I feel like this one gives a little bit more to everybody else. While they're still not, I wouldn't say it has fleshed out, it gives enough. And the film is more focused on character than it is on the battles. It's not like it's just about people blowing stuff up and fights and things. It actually tries to build something where you can become connected to them and understand the mindset and the psychology and how the plans worked into these battles, which is something we don't see in a lot of films like this anymore. I will say the visual effects in here, though they aren't perfect, really help to capture the way these battles would feel, and in a way that feels dangerous, and you can get the sense and feeling of how it would have been to be there thrust in the middle of this, and that's also assisted by the direction, which is brilliant. And I mean nothing short of brilliant. It has some brilliant uses of camera work, and honestly, the way characters are managing to be balanced in here is a compliment to the script. I will say the movie is rather one-sided in its portrayal of events, but that's okay because I get where it's coming from. It's not supposed to be telling a story that's, this well-rounded historical, oh, were we doing the right thing? It's more or less a film about history that's supposed to have some action to it and get your blood pumping. And when it does, and it has those sequences kick off, you're excited. You get to get just absolutely treated. So there's some really brilliant choreography and some excellent stunt work in here. I mean, there's some actual stunt work that's not CGI that I was impressed by, where I was like, holy shit, they did that for... That is incredible. I think the creation of the world, the costume design, the production, everything like that, really good stuff. I will say a few of the performances, especially in the supporting category, were a little lacking. They went a little too over the top, and it doesn't always necessarily work. And I think the narrative does drag a little bit in the second act. It gets a little lost, and it doesn't quite know where it wants to go. And it's just trying to keep the story going to get to that third act. And that felt a little weak. It didn't feel like they had a clear direction there. It's like they had the first and third part, but they just had to throw in some filler. And the movie can get a little too quotey sometimes, where it's just trying to say stuff that sounds fancy and cool and intelligent, but you're like, okay, this is a lot now. It's going a little too far, but other than that, I like this film a lot. I think it was a good amount of entertainment with enough history in it to still keep it reasonably so accurate, and it was something that kept me invested in the world. I also like things from other cultures. I like seeing how they can use film, because there's so many techniques used in here we don't use in America that we think we could easily adopt and we should be adopting. that this movie demonstrates work perfectly. I recommend seeing this movie if this is your alley. It's really well made. It offers a good look at just the entire way that history played out and something that you're not entirely familiar with, and it's always great to see something new. It totally should be seen in theater because it's not going to complement as well on a small screen. It's just something that's not going to come along often, and when it does come here, you should try to experience it, so go check it out. I'm going to give Noryang Deadly Sea a 7 out of 10. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you all next time.